I'm welcoming Amy to share her story. And I'm really excited to hear more of your story, Amy, because we got a glimpse about a week ago. I'm not going to say where or when because it's your story to share. But I'm really, really excited to hear your story of how you became a Christian and the changes that Jesus made in your life. So let's start by just giving us a brief introduction. Give us a snapshot of who you are,
Oh,
Amy.
okay. So I'm a mum of three daughters who I home educate, and I worked in the arts before I had children. I'm from Kent originally, and I met my Welsh husband in London. And about 17 years ago, we moved to Wales.
Wow. And you stayed
I did, yes, still here.
still here and loving it, enjoying it. Well,
Oh,
obviously
yes,
you are. Yeah,
yeah,
obviously you are, or
yeah,
you would have moved back if you
exactly.
didn't.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
wonderful place.
yeah. Thank you for coming and joining me and just sharing. Okay. I really appreciate that. Let's start by, let me just ask you about sort of what was your life like before you became a Christian? Because this is a fairly new experience for you as far as becoming a
Yes,
Christian.
yeah,
So, what was your life like before you became a Christian? Can you sort of open that up for us?
yeah. So I often felt quite anxious, and I was weary from the burdens of life, um, carrying those on my own. Was longing to understand the greater purpose behind
Mm,
why we're here. Um, I I'm sensitive to the supernatural, and ever since I was tiny, I could feel this loving, peaceful presence um, that was there in my day to day life, but um, I didn't know how to access it. I wanted a relationship with it, and I knew it was there, but I just didn't know how to get to it. And
mm,
I would look up at the night sky or listen to a beautiful piece of music, and I knew that higher power had created those things. There was no accident behind those
gosh,
things.
gosh, gosh. Okay.
Um, and yeah, so I was searching. It was spirituality was like my hobby. That's what I did when I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do in life.
Gosh, that's interesting. From a very young age, you were
Mm.
sensitive to the presence of, well, a higher being, as you would sort of
Yeah,
recognize.
then as I understood it, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what were the sorts of, as you were growing up then, okay, and into your sort of teens or adult years or whatever, what
yeah,
sort of things were you doing to search for that purpose and for that meaning?
yeah. Well, I grew up in a family with New Age spirituality, so that's the framework that I use to try and understand it.
Mm,
So I would meditate. I used crystals. I looked into angels, into Buddhism, yoga. Um, yeah, just lots of different ways of trying to access that presence that I could feel. And one of the most stressful things, actually, or the most sort of burdensome things that I believed or followed the thoughts of was actually using my thoughts to try and create my life. So positive thoughts would create positive things in your life. Negative thoughts would create negative things in your life. If there were bad things in my life, I brought them into my life with my
gosh.
thoughts. And that's a big burden for a little old human,
Mm.
trying to create your own life.
And is that sort of is that a new age sort of
Yes,
doctrine?
yeah,
Is it, because I'm not familiar with it?
yeah,
But that's sort of a new age
yeah, very
thing
much
that.
so. Manifestation. It's yeah, people would call it manifestation
Okay,
with
okay,
your yeah using your thoughts.
yeah. Am I okay to ask you how did all this make you feel? You say burdensome, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it linked to your anxiety? The feeling of anxiety, or do you think?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's that feeling of having to being alone in life, you know, like what's the purpose that I'm here, and what is there beyond this supporting me, you know, just feeling like I was a human trying to get through this life without any support beyond, you know, loving friends and family, but when you're on your own trying to deal with something, you know, I could feel that there was something more that could support me, but I just didn't know how to access it. And I did get glimpses actually through meditation. As I said, I'm sensitive to the supernatural, so I would receive messages, which I thought, you know, in the New Age terminology, it's from the universe. But obviously that was God. And I can, you know, looking back, I can see that golden thread of God, knowing that I was trying to access him and giving me those messages when I meditated, and some really beautiful spiritual experiences, but they were just fleeting. They came and went, and I didn't know how to have that continually without continually staying in meditation, which is not, you can't do that. So you have to go back, you know, have this lovely experience and then go back to your life. And yeah, so
how do you know, because you say it with confidence that during that time you had glimpses of God, how do you distinguish? Can I ask you that question? Is that okay?
yeah, I would say it's just the feeling of being loved and supported, a love beyond anything, any love that a human can offer. Yeah, just an immense feeling of love and support.
It's, you know, it's lovely to listen to you in the midst of that searching. And would it be sort of a bit OTT to say a desperation, really, to find this, as you saw him then, find this God, this force, this overriding spiritual power. It was sort of in desperation as well, wasn't it? That's what it sounds like, because you were continually trying to you know, find the door, the narrow door, as Jesus calls himself. You were continually, but in the middle of that, he was there giving you glimpses, and you know, wow, that's amazing. And then and then you started a journey towards Christ, and to recognize that he's the one you were looking for all this time. How did this journey start, Amy?
Yes, well, I have a friend who was my New Age spirituality partner in crime. She was also searching hard.
Okay.
And she started to read the Bible, so that made me curious. But I had kind of dismissed Christianity as a sort of dry and historical thing, which now I know couldn't be further from the truth. But that's kind of how I'd seen it. And but yeah, she started to read the Bible, so I became curious about that. And then my sister sent me an article about Christian prayer, and I felt inspired by that, and I decided I would start to pray. So, and a couple of days, just like 2 or 3 days after starting to pray, I sort of inwardly cried out during prayer, asking Jesus where he was.
Asking Jesus where he was?
Yes, where are you, Jesus?
Wow, okay.
And I had my eyes closed, and I saw darkness for a little while, and then it's interesting you said the narrow door, because a door appeared.
Okay.
And there was light shining around the edges, as though it was shining through from whatever was inside this door. I knocked on the door, and the door opened, and Jesus was there. And I invited him into the darkness where I was.
Oh.
And I just felt the most overwhelming love and warmth and light. And I knew that I'd found him. And he's been with me ever since. Yeah.
I think we're both struggling here.
Yeah.
You know, really.
Yeah, really beautiful.
You know, as I listen to you, obviously as an experience of that real experience of finding Christ and the person and the reality as well, is overwhelming.
Mm.
But even listening to your story, I'm moved by that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so beautiful.
That moment of been searching all my life,
Yeah.
and now I found you in that
Yeah.
moment. And I'm just thinking how gracious he is in that he didn't hold the other things against you. He didn't say, oh, you've
No.
been looking in the wrong place, and how could
Yeah.
it just, and that golden thread that was drawing you continually,
Yeah.
continually.
Yeah. I was following it. I was trying in all these different places. And then I
Wow.
did it. I found the truth.
Okay. So that
Yeah.
was a real positive, enlightening experience. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Take us a little bit further down now. After that,
Yeah.
what
So
happened?
then my friend had been reading the Bible. So after that, I decided I would start to read the Bible.
Yes.
Um, and then the same friend invited me to a women's Bible group.
Okay.
Um, that was beautiful. They really helped develop my understanding of the Bible.
Yeah.
And one of the women in the group attends Beacon Church in Cowbridge, so I thought I'd give that a go.
Okay.
That was about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Started attending, and just from there, God just took over my life. Like the support, the prayer, the love, the fellowship community from the people in that church, in our church.
It was
It
that
was,
church then. Yeah.
yeah,
But now
yeah,
it's, yeah,
it
like
was
you
our
say, our
church,
church,
yeah,
my church. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, God just took over my life then like wildfire, all consuming, gobbled everything up. Just, yeah, it was really wonderful. And then a week ago, I was baptized.
Yes. And Jill and I had the privilege of being there because
Yeah,
I would, most of the people on this channel know that it's Beacon Church that we go to, Jill and I. And
yeah,
so that's why, and hearing you give a little bit of your testimony last week, that's why that's why I invited you, so
yes,
that we
right.
could hear more and so that people can understand, the reality of this person, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ, that changes lives.
yeah,
Well, complete turnaround.
yeah.
Are there any markers, Amy, on your journey from sort of 6 months ago when you had that experience, that living experience of Christ, opening the door, you inviting him in? Have you any markers along the way between then and baptism, Alpha or church or anything?
Yes, so quite soon, sort of maybe the first or second time that I went to Beacon, um, Chris, the pastor, was leading us in prayer, and
Yes.
I really felt the Holy Spirit come in for the first time. I didn't know what it was then, but just pure light and love just flowing up and down through me while we were praying. Um, and tears came, and I wasn't not it was joyful. It was just a release. It was just tears, and that seems to be what happens to me when the Holy Spirit comes in. Tears come. Um,
You're not
yeah, so
alone with that.
there
You're
was,
not
yeah.
alone with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, go
So
on.
that was quite early on. I had that experience, and I've had a few experiences like that since. On the on the Alpha course, on our Holy Spirit Day, I was praying in the morning before going to the Holy Spirit Day, and just asking, God, what do you want me to take from today? And I saw a white bird, and I heard the word Elohim, and that was sort of that, and I got ready and went, and I told
Did
my friend.
did that make any sense to you at the time?
I looked up the word Elohim then.
Yeah.
I'd heard the word before, but I didn't really know. I knew it was a word for God, but didn't really understand the sort of
Yeah.
technicality of it. So I looked it up at the time before, straight after praying, before I went to the Holy Spirit Day, and it said it was a plural term for God. And I thought, right, okay, that didn't mean much to me at the time. So then we went along to it, and we watched our first video, and we were discussing what the Holy Spirit, what we understood it to be. And one of the people from church who was there, sort of facilitating, said, on the way there, I said to my friend about what I had experienced. She said, "Oh, well, a white bird signifies the Holy Spirit."
Yes.
And I thought, "Oh, well, that's interesting." And we're on our way to the Holy Spirit Day, so God was giving me a message there. And then, so we watched a video, and then one of the facilitators said, "Of course, the word is Elohim for the Trinity."
Wow.
And yeah, I just had tears then, because I thought God gave me those messages to take into my day and to show me I'm here and I'm with you and I'm listening, and it was a word that I didn't know, and I couldn't have I couldn't have made it up, basically.
That confirmation on your journey, it just speaks to me of the goodness of God, giving you that confirmation in that, okay, I've shown you, and so that it's me. This wasn't going through your mind at the time, but I can just picture, so that this is me. I'm giving you now a taste of what is going to become, just as confirmation to you that I'm in this with you.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Now then, let me ask you, obviously, things have turned around for you in the last 6 months, and continuing to develop, and sort of you're early on this journey, but you're on the journey, and you're all in on the journey, and it's become more than a hobby now, isn't it?
Oh yes.
Okay. What are the biggest changes that you're seeing now, Amy, as a result of meeting Christ, meeting this wonderful, beautiful person, Christ? What were the changes? What are the biggest changes in your life now?
I feel an underlying peace now, because I understand my purpose. I understand why I'm here. I understand how to live a good life. I have a framework, a mentor to follow in Jesus, and I can access that relationship, my relationship with God, all day, every day, anytime I need to, through prayer and reading the Bible. So I'd been longing for God and to have that relationship, and now I have it. And so that means that I'm less anxious. Well, I hardly ever feel anxious, because I can take it to God. And I'm not trying to carry the burdens of life by myself anymore. Which I've also felt that my heart is a lot more open and softer, because I'm not trying to protect myself. God does that for me. He gives me peace and shelter. So it means that I'm more patient, more loving, a better wife, mother, friend, sister, daughter, stranger. People around me can actually benefit.
Yeah. What sort of changes are there in the family as a result of this, experience and this relationship now with Jesus, becoming a Christian? How were the family dynamics changed? Am I okay to ask you that? Or?
Yes, yeah. My daughters are inspired by it, and feel that they have a purpose now. When they have those big questions, one of my daughters asks a lot at bedtime. She worries about death, and I have answers to give her now, and comfort and peace that she can take now. Whereas before, I found it really difficult when she asked those questions. I'm not sure how well my answers kind of they maybe placated her in that moment, but they didn't give her a real sort of sense of comfort. So that's been a big change for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a focus now as a family, guidelines, framework, a mentor. Yeah.
Wow. This is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we are thinking of, I'll tell you a thought that came to me as I was listening to you, okay, was I think with the change, you explaining about the changes that have come to your life and to your family, I think would it be right to describe it as the plane has landed? Your life was
Yeah.
sort of circling, but now it's landed, and you're
Yes,
on
absolutely.
in spiritual sense, you're on solid
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Exactly.
yeah,
And yeah, that's a perfect description, because that's like, yeah, the anxiety was the searching and the being up in the air and airy and floaty and insecure. And
yeah,
yeah, having landed, it just brings a peaceful, grounded feeling.
yeah,
Grounded, literally.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Grounded in spiritual truth.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, there may be somebody who is listening to this now that is now where you were, looking for that purpose, looking for that higher power as they see it now.
Yeah.
But we know that higher power, is
Yes.
Jesus. Um, so they're searching and they can't find any answers, and they're still searching, and they find that if they're not going around in circles, they're going down a cul-de-sac and having to come back and start search
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them as somebody who has been through this and has come to a place where you've found purpose and meaning? What advice would you give them?
I would say start to read the Bible, start praying in line with the Bible. Find some Christian worship songs that you love and just sing your heart out to God. I would say find a church or a Christian community group. And the Alpha course that I finished recently, that was really great for just having a space to discuss, a safe space to discuss those big questions that we all have about life and Christianity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it's useful to add with Alpha that it is that safe space, as you called it, that safe place where you can ask questions. And it doesn't matter from which direction you're coming from, whether it's atheist, whether it's new age, whatever, it is a safe place to ask the bigger questions.
yeah.
So
There's
yeah,
no pressure to join the church or become a Christian, but just have those questions answered and explored.
just to explore and ask questions. Listen, Amy, brilliant. Okay. I've loved this conversation. I've loved
Too.
hearing more of your story. Put a few more pieces in place. Listen, it's been brilliant. Okay, it has been brilliant. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and just thank you for taking the time. Okay, to just to share your story and watch this space really
Yes, yeah,
with how God leads you, and because you have a future. You have a future.
yes,
Lovely.
yeah.
Thanks, Amy. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. God bless you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.